Hi, I'm Dejan Georgevich, ASC. I'm based in New York. I'm a director of photography, and I'm also a professor of cinematography at the School of Visual Arts in New York. I like balancing both. For the primary purpose, I really believe very strongly in giving back to what was given to me. I had significant mentors in my development when I was coming up through the ranks as a filmmaker, and I enjoy teaching. And on the professional side, I work in different genres, which I enjoy doing. I work in feature films, theatrical films, television series, and documentaries and commercials. I would say the bulk of my work in the last 20 years have been TV series. I just finished working on Enemy Within. It's an ongoing TV series in the New York area. And the DP is Frank Prinzi, but I'm coming in as a second unit DP on it. And they're shooting with the VariCam LTs. There's about 3 or 4 of the LTs on that production. My introduction to the Panasonic, however, was about 1.5 years ago. I was hired to shoot a TV pilot. Once in a Lifetime was a British production, and it required the script had a lot of night scenes in it and nightclub scenes, so a lot of low light situations. And I think in a conversation with Barry Russo from VariCam, he heard that I had this pilot, and he urged me to consider the VariCam, and so I went to the R&D center in the New York area, and with Frank Prinzi, ASC, who joined me. I said, "You got to come along with me, because I'm camera agnostic. If it's a better camera, let's take a look." And we did a candle test, with the camera. And much to our surprise, we were just amazed at the high ISO of 2500 and 5000, that what we were seeing was a tremendous sensitivity, but more importantly, there were rich blacks. There was no noise at the high ISO numbers, and I was always aware in the previous generations of Panasonic. I always liked their skin tones, how the camera reproduced skin tones. When we did this candle test, we just kept pushing each other away further and further from the foot candle test, and I was very impressed, with the camera's image recording capability. So I used it on a show once in a lifetime for the TV pilot, and there were many situations where I was shooting literally at about 5-10 foot candles, and I was getting a remarkable picture. So I did a Dcp test as well, because I knew this was going to go on the big screen. And to me, that was really the proof of the pudding. Ultimate test for this camera was, how does it reproduce on the theatrical screen? And again, I was surprised. The camera's capabilities, and with no noise and rich blacks and a gentle rollover into the highlights. So subsequently, I was asked by Panasonic they were about to unveil the LT, and they asked me to do it, to direct it and shoot it. They gave me a couple of scripts, and I said, with all due respect, I think we could do better, and not having any idea yet what script I was going to come up with, that's where I came up with the idea of To Each His Dulcinea, which is the 5-minute promo that's playing around the world, frankly. That was shot in Brooklyn, in Dumbo area. We also shot at the Lighthouse, again, low light situations. And in this case, with the Dulcinea project, it was Manhattan in the background, because we were shooting in Brooklyn looking back to Manhattan. And so you're looking at about a T2, T228 level. Later, when we shot at the Lighthouse, which actually I took my inspiration from Vertigo, Hitchcock's film Vertigo, the chase scene, when he's going after the woman he can never have, but he wants. Again, I was impressed, just with the imagery, and my DIT, Dave Satin, wonderful. He's probably one of the best DITs, and we were both impressed, with the quality of the camera and the images that we were getting in such low light. And now I just finished doing a chase scene, The Enemy Within. This is the new show that's in the New York area, in New Jersey. I introduced the camera to one of my most talented students this past year, Diego Cordero. He had a period piece that he shot in a Victorian house in Connecticut. Thanks to Panasonic, we got the permission to use the camera, the LT, the Panasonic LT, to shoot in the Victorian house, which was lit to period, which means it was lit by candles. So Diego did a wonderful job lighting that tastefully. And appropriate to the story. He was one of the nominations, of the 5 nominations nationwide in the United States for Best Cinematography for a Dramatic Narrative Film. So I'm really proud of him. Again, shooting with a minimal of light, shooting and feeling confident to shoot at 5,000 ASA. For me personally, my sweet spot's at 2,500 ASA, and again, it's a matter of taste, working with the camera in low light situations. But I think, when I came to the color correction for all of my projects, my colorist basically, we saw here was a characteristic curve like in film. There was, like I said, a very gentle roll off into the highlights, and the skin tones were very pleasing. There's something we describe as a cinematic quality. I don't know what it is, but I think something with the sensor. The dual sensor to me is a game changer. I think it's revolutionary. We're having both ISOs, 800 and 5,000. It just gives me a lot of flexibility, especially when I'm losing light, and I can maintain the same T-stop by just switching from 800 to the 5,000 ISO without losing texture or tonality. I think that's really important. That worked very well for me as well. The more information, the more color space, I think that's valuable. It gives us more choices, and I think a greater range of tonality in the midtones, and in particular. In that regard, I think 4K works very well. On my projects, I found I was working with the Fujinon lenses. The Cabrios work really nicely from the 19 to 90 zooms, and then I also like working with the Cooke S4s, prime lenses. I also worked with the Fujinon Premier lenses as well for the nightclub scenes that I did for the TV pilot that I mentioned. I'm a DP that likes to control as much as I can on the camera because there's too many in this new generation of digital shooting. There's many sous chefs in the tent, so to speak. I prefer working with a DIT. So we can paint the pictures, and I pretty much know what I have when I'm shooting. And also it reduces my time and actual color correction on the other end. I would recommend it because it's aesthetically, I think it has a very cinematic look. And again, I'm not going to name other brands, but I just find that in general, many digital cameras are they're so sharp, so clinical looking. I just feel that the reproduction of image from the VariCam has a very cinematic quality, and as I mentioned earlier, I feel it comes closest to the characteristic curve of the film curve. It has a texture, it has a tonality, and a beautiful skin tone reproduction, and that I find extremely pleasing, very pleasing.